Actually, my part of the presentation is perfectly aligned with Niklas' speech, because at EIT Climate-KIC, we think that systemic thinking and futures literacy go together, and they fit perfectly. So the role of the Climate-KIC and its main goal is to accelerate the systemic change through innovation. And on a daily basis, we work with cities, with governments, with regional authorities, and with industries. And we know that in order to rebuild the future and also to provide us more sustainable future, we need to think about the entire systems. We don't need to think only about certain areas, but we need to introduce new paradigms and also change the already existing ones. And also we advocate for systems thinking and systemic change, because we cannot solve complex problems with current approaches. We need to find new ways to do so. And during this presentation, I would like to offer you a deep dive into the deep demonstration methodology, which we deploy across the Europe. And you can see 4 phases of this process. But before we start, I would like to reflect on the systemic thinking and how we can imagine this. So systemic thinking is totally aligned with spatial thinking. So just imagine getting to know a new city, a new place where you are based. And that's exactly about the systems, because we all are part of the systems. We are users of the systems on the local, regional, national, or international level. And we need to get them to know in order to know how to transform them, or to find out the points when we can introduce some interventions, and then we can see how the system is transforming. And also this approach is aligned with shifting the project management principles, because we don't start it with creating a strategy or setting up the goal. First of all, we need to know the boundaries of the system and also all the elements, key actors that are included in the system. And the deep demonstration process is consisting of 4 phases, and they are called intent, frame, portfolio, and intelligence. And that's it on paper, but we designed this process and every process is different in every locations that we work with, but it offers a guidance. And this methodology helped us to go through the setting up the right environment for a systemic change to happen, and also working with different locations with multi-stakeholder relations. And this methodology fits in an urban environment, rural environment, or industrial environment. So it's quite flexible. And let me introduce you some principles of it. So if we want to start a transformation of a city or even of a museum, so first of all, we need to find out what's about the current system. We need to know what these institutions, the stakeholder is doing, is planning to do, what are the other actors that are with the system, how the relations work between the systems, and also what type of skills are needed, and also what type of new abilities we need to introduce to the system. And in this, after gathering all the information, we can create a vision of a system and the current one. So we can know the current state, but also we need to think about the vision about the future system. So what changes we need to introduce to having a more climate-friendly system that we want to operate within. And the second phase about this is about framing. So we need to start with a deep listening process. We call this that way at EIT Climate-KIC. So it's about interviewing the stakeholders, the communities, and also citizens, and to find out what type of narratives are lying behind the people's behavior and institutions' behavior. So we need to find out exactly why people think this way, why people act in a certain way. And that's based on this, we can start thinking how we can frame the transformation that we've been designing. And it's also aligned with producing reports, working on the ground, organizing sessions, these sprint design session workshops, just to extract as many information and transform it into knowledge as we can. Because the crucial element of this phase is finishing with a portfolio brief. Before we start some experimentation. So we need to know the exact areas of the systems that we want to experiment in, and it might be reflect on if we think about a new city. So we can experiment with some districts, or we can experiment with some streets, and that's actually the same case in this case. So we need to identify the points where we can provide some interventions, and then they can accelerate the systemic change. The next phase and the crucial phase for this process is the portfolio. We don't think in the category of creating projects. That's the new approach that we think about the entire constellations of projects that we want to introduce and the experiments that we need to activate. Because if we think only about the one project, or if we think about project that our institutions or our partner are carrying out, we are missing the entire picture. So we need to know also what other projects and initiatives have partners that we identified in the mappings, and also what groups of stakeholders are doing what. And it's also a line that if we activate a portfolio of experiments, we disperse a risk if there is a failure. So just imagine that everyone in this room is carrying out a very small experiments at home. So we lower the risk that if there's a failure, so the entire experiment will not collapse. We can only just learn from the small failure, but the other experiments will be working anyway. So instead of, let's say, building a new institutions that might be aligned with the new green paradigms, we can actually implement the green paradigms within the operating systems. And we do this process also by learning constantly. That's also another paradigm that we implement in this process, that we don't do evaluation at the end of the demonstration. We start evaluating and sense making from the very first step of this process. So it allows us a possibility that if we spot that anything needs to be amended, we can do it. We don't need to wait until the process is done. Because systems, we cannot, because the systems are evolving constantly. So we cannot have only one picture of a system, because still we need to build on new elements and also remove elements that are not within the system anymore. And the last part of it is the intelligence.
Yeah, Krzysztof, I'm so sorry. If you can just wrap up quickly, just to stay on track. Thank you.
Okay. And the last part of this is the intelligence. So we believe in collective intelligence. And every one of us is an expert, is a user of a system. So we know that if we gather together, so we can build a new better version of the already existing knowledge. And also during this process, we identified that futures thinking or futures literacy is a crucial element of any transformation, because we should deploy this approach in the beginning of any transformation. People need to think that other realities are possible, that there are many versions of the future, and we can shape this. And that's my provocation at the end, that we think about systems, design, futures, but actually how we can start doing it. Okay, thank you.